I on YouTube.
Hey, congrats, Alexis. I tried getting seeds, but Vanessa bought them all.
I'm sorry, what? I did what now? That is not true. Well, if I bought them all, then Alexis definitely has half because we did a seed swap party this past weekend.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Sounds like a fun
yeah.
idea.
Yes, it was amazing. Can you stop telling lies in the chat, please? To everyone who just joined, hello. We're going to get started in just about a minute. And we need a 12-step program. I'm sorry.
I agree.
It's true. But this is like our AA meeting, but we don't want to stop. Right? Okay. Decisions. Got you. All right. So we're almost there. Am I sharing?
Alrighty.
Boom. Alrighty.
I'll be on mute.
I'm going to get out of the chat because it's too interesting and it's distracting me. I can only see, I can only see one person because only one person has their video on.
No, I turned mine on.
Alrighty. So if my panelists can go ahead and show your beautiful faces. Claudia, I see you shining, girl. Okay. There we go. I need one more. The gentleman of the hour. Dun, dun, dun. Can y'all see me? I don't even know. Oh, no, you're trying to skip ahead. Let me start my video. All right. And we're just waiting for Isidro to come back and turn on his video. And while he's doing that, I would like to welcome all of you to 3H Table Talk. I feel like it's been forever because I took a week off the first week of the month to just kind of start hatching plans. And this is our first week and it's already halfway through the month because 2021 is going to go by just like that. So our theme for this month is root work. And our theme for last month was growing where you were planted. And then I thought, well, nothing grows if we don't have a foundation, a good, solid foundation. So I wanted to take a step back this month and talk about getting to the root of all issues. And as you know, we have 3 pillars to our brand, and that is Homestead, Hustling, and Healing. This is the Homestead edition, and I am so excited to be joined by these 2 beautiful women, inspiring. I mean, they don't stop, they don't quit, so they inspire me not to stop and not to quit. And this lovely gentleman, Isidro, and I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. I practice, but I don't have the, like I ain't got it. I don't have that part. So I'm gonna work on it. And you guys let me know if I mess it up. So, like I said, this is 3H Table Talk. This is our first installment for this month, and this is Rootworks Homestead Edition. Can everybody see my screen? You guys are doing good?
Mm-hmm.
All right. So, tonight we're going to talk about soil work. And what I mean by soil work is that in the literal sense. But that is the base of our gardening journey that up until recently, we didn't really fully understand and realize things can grow soillessly. But we knew that a medium had to serve as the foundation to how we grew. And foundation is important, of course, in and out of the garden. But tonight, I want us all to talk about how we prepare for the season, how we ensure that we are off to a good start. And you have such a wealth of information amongst these ladies and gentlemen that I hope you guys are asking questions don't hold on to your questions, okay? Because if you're anything like me, you will absolutely forget as soon as it pops up in your head. If you have a question, there is a Q&A feature. It should be at the top somewhere here. You can go ahead and submit your question, and our lovely Jazzy J, the moderator, the mediator, she is the mediator sometimes, the moderator, she will collect your questions, and we will have some time at the end for a Q&A. So if you've been here before, it's just a casual conversation. We want you guys to be engaged. We want you guys to have conversations in the chat. Have fun. We are spending the night together. Grab some tea, grab a glass of wine. Let's get started. All right, so here we go for introductions. And I just realized that I may have left myself out of the presentation. Maybe this was subconscious, or I was doing the slides. I was doing everyone's introduction slide and deleted my own. So I'm going to introduce myself, and then I'm going to hand it off to the panelists so that they can introduce themselves to all of you. Now, bear with me. I am on a laptop, and I am toggling screens. So if at any point you can't see anything, give me a holler in the chat, all right? I think, are we still missing Isidro? Where's Mike? Where is he?
I'm here.
Just. Oh, okay, there you go. Can you turn on your video for me?
It said it was disabled. Let me try it again. It's saying video, the host is disabled.
I don't know how you're setting. There you go. We're fixed. Okay.
We're back.
If anyone has any tech issues, something's not working right, we're in the pandemic Zoom world, hit up Jay and she will get that resolved for you. There he is. Y'all see my first male panelist? You see him? You thought I was just leaning towards the ladies. It is Women's Month, but I let him slide.
Yeah. Shout out to the women.
All right, so let me introduce myself. I'll just spotlight myself. My name is Vanessa, and I am the founder of Homestead, Hustle, and Healing. I am on a mission to end food insecurity in minority communities through gardening and food education. I do that online and in my community by holding events like this, by teaching people how to garden, beginning gardeners, all the way up through more experienced folks always have something to learn. And I create online spaces for community, for fellow gardeners, minority gardeners, and sorry, I lost my train of thought, for minority gardeners and people who are change makers in their own communities to come together and hash out some of the issues that we're all facing and share tips and strategies for everyone. So nice to meet you all. You guys know me, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time on me. I would love for Miss Claudia to introduce herself. So I actually have a slide for her. Here we go.
Hold on a second. There we go. I've always loved gardening. I was born into a gardening family. My grandfathers on both sides were farmers. And then my dad grew most of the food we ate as a kid. So always. And then we would all go as children to help our parents to make it easier. So I grew up gardening. When I became an adult, well, even in my teen years, I grew flowers. My dad handled the food because I still lived at home. When I moved out on my own and got married, I grew flowers again. But after I had my daughter, I had postpartum depression. And my husband encouraged me to get out and just get out the house because I kind of got stuck in the house and stuck in my comfy chair. And when I went outside and got my hands back in the dirt, it was just like a coming home experience and very healing for me. So that is why I garden. And anytime I'm going through anything, I'm outside. If I've had a rough day, I'm outside. I find that I relieve my stress with the dirt. And so gardening is my therapy, as it were. Yeah.
That's awesome. And it sometimes when I look at, you see someone's Instagram feed and all these things, all you're seeing is the end result and not thinking like, how did we get here? But I'm not going to get into that because we're going to go more into your story a little bit later on. So next we have, I'm just going in the order that's here, Isidro.
Hello. There I go.
There you go. I changed the picture. I was waiting for that.
All right, so I am, thank you for Isidro. No, you're fine. So, very opposite. I did not grow up in a gardening family. At least not immediate. I probably can name a few, but they're probably not even in this country that do garden. But as far as in the home, no one garden. We always had like a few indoor plants. I used to have to water. I think I had one day experimented with some lemon seeds. So I grabbed the lemon and put some lemon seeds, the seeds from the lemon, and they took root and they started growing. I still have a couple of them in the backyard from like 10 years ago. They just go dormant every winter and come back even stronger, even bigger the next year. The leaves smell great. Still haven't got any fruit, but I'm not worried about that. That was just what got me started. Then after that, I had a friend who grew, I think he started with okra and some cucumbers, and he would give me like a couple. It wasn't that big. Gave me a couple, and I was like, man, I want to start that too. It was a few years ago. So I started in a little pallet. I got a pallet, put some dirt in some pallet, started growing some bell peppers in one square, some green onions in one, carrots and lettuce in one, and carrots and lettuce, and can't remember what else. Whatever else I had. Garlic. It failed. I failed a lot of times, and then I started learning. Like I was getting a little bit, and then I just kept going. It's just fun. It's just interesting in the garden, and to produce what you're gonna eat, what you're gonna, I make like things for your skin sometimes, teas. It's just fun to do it, and it's just all natural, and you don't have to go to nobody for it. You can do it right here in your backyard. So I just continue growing, and it's like an addiction. Because I always say I'm going to start with this, that, and then I go to the store sometimes, and I don't even look for seeds, and I find, let me just go see what they got today, and I see something I like, I get planted, I get a fruit or something that I like, I'm like, I'm going to try to grow this. Then I just grow it, and then I just been doing that, like every year it's just been getting bigger and bigger. Like, I don't know, but for those who do follow me now, I just recently expanded even further because I plan on doing that much more this year. It's just an addiction, and I love it. And sort of like to what Claudia said, it's very therapeutic for me as well. Like, it's a way for me to detach from everything and just go out there and lose myself, and I love it. I love it.
I didn't get all the seeds out of the store. Isidro. Not going to do that again. That's my first and last time. I tried it, though. Dare to be different. Okay.
You got it.
He bought all the seeds as well. So if there's no seeds at your local store, it's because he probably ordered them all. Okay. And we have last, but certainly not least, Kimberly, or is there no the? I keep mixing this up. Black Homesteader, but she is the Black Homesteader. Go ahead and introduce yourself, Kimberly.
Thank you. I chose that name because I am in digital marketing, and I couldn't believe that that was free. But I'm originally from California, and now I live in Central Florida, Orlando. And what got me into gardening and eventually homesteading was just living abroad and realizing that I had to make so much of my stuff by myself. So when I returned to the States, I knew that I wanted to have some space to grow more stuff. And in addition to making other things, so I also make candles and incense and all sorts of stuff, soap and things like that. So at first I didn't know the name of it until I had visited a museum in Colorado that is a Black Cowboy and Homesteader Museum. So with that, I kind of just put together all of my interests, which were veganism, growing food, making all your products, basically everything that you can make at home instead of shopping. And I wanted to share my experiences with people, more for encouragement and holding myself accountable. But now it's just been really cool to meet so many other people already doing it.
That's awesome. And I think that's like the best part, is that sense of community, that people from all over the world, all over the country, no matter how divided we may be or how far away we are from each other, that this common thing could bring us together. I think that's super important, especially with healing our relationship with the land, which is a huge thing. So welcome, all of you. We are all so blessed to have you guys here spending your night with us. I know it's late, it's been a long day, but I promise to give you 100% of my energy. This is the last of it, though. This is the last one. I'm going to sleep after this. Okay. But it's going to be a good night. I think you actually may have answered my first question, which is soil work. I always start with story time. If you've been to any of our table talks, you know I like spilling tea. I can briefly share how I got into gardening, although I'm sure most of you have heard it already. My family, I'm Jamaican. I grew up in South Florida, and my family. Are you? Oh, what's up, Yardy? Wagwan? You're good. Okay. So my family is not from like the beachy, tourist part of Jamaica. That's
Country girl.
I didn't go to the beach in Jamaica until I was like maybe like late teens. I went back for a funeral. Okay. My job was to weigh the hog feed at my family's farm. Okay. But I'm an American citizen. So I always tell this story. I would go down there, have the sour face, and be like, I'm an American citizen. I just don't know why I'm here. Little did I know that I was gaining such valuable lessons, being brought up by my grandparents on that farm and having to, that's where I first learned about rain barrels. Didn't connect it till I really got older. Mm-hmm. Because we used to have to hide to go wash our hair, because if it didn't rain, where you was going to get water? Where were you getting water? Learned how to bathe out of a bucket too, but that's for a whole nother story. But these homesteading, they don't call it homesteading back then. They call it, back home, they call it just surviving. And, Kim has been overseas, and the rest of us our families come from other countries, so we are very much aware of the blessings of modern conveniences that we have here that they just don't bother with in other parts of the world. And so we kind of bring that home. But what I do remember about growing up is, even though we weren't, we didn't always have everything we wanted, we were never hungry.
Amen. That's right.
And that comes from learning to provide or have that self-sufficiency piece, and so we could grow things, we could have livestock, and if we had that, then we can figure the rest out, So that's so as I got older and I had kids of my own and started to experience food insecurity, I was like, tap back into the roots, let's grow some shit, right? So we started growing, and it really did help, especially my kids was greedy. So that's how I was first exposed to gardening, and then got back into gardening. And it also, I say this all the time, like it's my therapy. I suffer from anxiety, and it was the only thing that would calm me and calm my mind. And for my anxiety, I'm triggered by lack of control or not being able to figure things out in my head. But I knew that I could somewhat control this aspect, just besides fears, control this aspect of my life. So that's my gardening story. I usually start the same way all the time. I'm going to go from the bottom up this time. So I know you guys kind of briefly touched on, do you have anything to add about how you got into gardening? Mm-hmm. I know that Claudia had, experienced some illness after she had her child, and that's healing. Isidro said he wanted to be a scientist out in the garden, and he was like, I can grow that, I can grow that, I can grow that. And Kim
Well,
said, you know what? It's going in somewhere else. I can do it here as well. What'd you say?
I'm fine. I was going to say also, I went to school and became a registered dietitian. And the more I learned about food, the more I realized that I wanted to be in control of what I ate and what my family ate. And also, I learned a lot about genetically modifying, even though it's sold and the government has said it's safe. I didn't like the idea that um, we were splicing the genes of an animal into a vegetable, and you don't know that's what they've done or what animal they may have added to genetically modify that particular product. And so I decided, you know what? If I grow it, I know exactly what's in it. And so therefore, that solidified my need to grow as much of what we ate as possible.
I know you're not just going to gloss over that.
Well, I will say that what they do is, for example, one I can give you is potatoes, right? Potatoes have always suffered from blight and they always had issues being stored. So what they found was that the gene from a fish, this particular fish, could be spliced into the gene of the potato to allow it to be not susceptible to blight as well as be able to be stored long term. So that's what they've done. Now, for people who have like dietary preferences because of religious, you don't know what animal, whether it's a clean or kosher or halal animal that they're using. And so it's a concern for many, but we do it.
And that's the way, right? How will you know? You just have to grow your own food. Like,
Right.
it's
Now, I will say that if you purchase organic foods, those organic foods are not genetically modified. They cannot be in order to have the organic label. So,
first nugget of the day, y'all. Buy organic.
yes.
Or, I mean, we might not have any coins left after we buy organic.
I think
you can
that's
just
also
grow.
why tomatoes don't taste the same from the store as they do from what you grow. Never mind the fact that they have to pick them early, but that's also another product that's heavily genetically modified.
I don't know, Kimberly. We might head on over to veganism and all the rest with you. All right. So we all kind of shared our story, and I hope that you guys were able to get, I learned something. Shoot. Let's see. All right. So, oh my gosh, I lost my presentation. Oh, I'm so sorry. I don't know what is happening with Zoom today. Share screen. All right. So my next question for you guys is not number two. Number two is, what does homesteading mean to you? We talk a lot about gardening just because that's the term that most people know and use, right? Especially if you're starting to kind of that, I feel like gardening is that gateway drug to homesteading, right? So you, like you start off and you're like, I'm just going to grow a flower. And then you're like, ooh, I'm going to grow a vegetable. And then you're like, I need chickens. I need cows. I need goats in my life. I want 2 baby goats. That's on my wish list. But I wanted to just know from each of you, starting off with Isidro, what does homesteading mean to you? Do you practice homesteading? Do you consider yourself a homesteader? And also, why do you do the work that you do?
I'm getting there. Baby steps. So, and I'm gonna need 2 ox while you at it. I'm gonna need 2 ox. I like oxtails. But kind of, so I'm getting into it. The more like you said, gardening is a great gateway drug. The more you become more self-sufficient and learn how to, I'm not gonna say provide your own, because we are blessed to have what we have, even the ability to do what we have. Mm-hmm. But aside from that, or with that being in consideration, you don't go out and it's a lot of things. Like, I like to cook a lot. I love to cook. So making your own sauces and things that you typically wouldn't have thought of doing in your home, it's like I could do that now. I don't got to go to the store. to buy this, to buy that. I could do all of that at the home, and just keep it going. And teas from like things for acne and for burns and things like with gardening it opens up the door for pretty much everything. I don't think the community I live in would allow chickens running in the backyard or anything like that. So I gotta keep it just at the plant. But and with the gardening aspect for sure, I like to even like peppers and seasonings. I got a dehydrator here. I dehydrate mine, and then I break it up. I go through the process and I try it out. I see what I like. I give it away for free. I make pickles and I give it away for free. See how everybody else likes it, and that aspect for sure. But yeah, where we live at in Clayton County, Georgia, you can't have no chickens. You can't even collect water out here. No, we can't collect. Yeah.
Maybe you need to move. I'm just saying.
You're right about that. You're right
Come
about
up
that.
to the area. We can have chickens and we collect water.
Mm.
I'm selling it. I'm selling Montgomery County. What about you, Kimberly? So where are you what does homesteading mean to you? And kind of why did you decide to call yourself a homesteader or continue on that path? Is it the self-sufficiency piece as well?
It was definitely the self-sufficiency piece, in addition to wanting to have a more pared down lifestyle that I could save money, and also with the health part of it. Speaking to what Claudia said about diet, that also was very concerning with the lotions that I used and the type of soaps that I used, even the incense. And I would find that I was allergic to store-bought incense, so I just learned to make my own. Or I was allergic to the wax that is used in a lot of candles, store-bought candles, so I would just learn to make my own. And then with my hair products, I didn't want anybody really doing my hair, so it was like I wanted to just create all of that. And then I found out there's so much more to it. There's canning, there's definitely livestock and things like that. So, but what I do is also encourage people to learn those skills in whatever stage you are. So even if you're in an apartment or in a condo like me, or in a house or in a rural area, I just try to meet people where they are and at least provide resources for them to learn what they want to learn or to expand. So that's, for me, that's why I do it. Just for that kind of sustainability, zero waste, and making sure that I'm not slowly poisoning myself in the United States, because I used to get sick all the time. So now I don't have these issues with living my lifestyle.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's not just being self-sufficient is great, saving some money, but also having control of what goes into your body, like Claudia said, or what goes on your body. We don't a lot of times account for that our skin is the largest or largest organ, and we're putting all these products and we can't even read have you tried to read the words on the back of the cryptochrome?
Have you tried to read the words on some of the food we're eating?
Exactly. What about you, Claudia? Do you consider yourself a homesteader? And if you are, or if you do, where are you on your journey?
I think we fell into homesteading, kind of, and I do desire to have chickens. It's on my plan for this year. We'll see if that happens. Homesteading for me is doing as much for ourselves as far as raising of our food. And I grow most of the tea that I drink, because I'm a tea drinker. We don't drink coffee in our house. So I grow most of the teas that we drink. I make my own seasoning blends, my own jerk seasoning, I grow my own cayenne pepper and then make my own cayenne pepper powder. So doing those types of things, I learned how to can in school and make bread and do all of that. So I do can, I freeze, I dehydrate. So I do preservation of food. I would love to get to the point where I grow all that we ate and only needed to buy fish at the store, because my husband's a pescatarian and I am a mostly vegetarian, but not all the time. I like salmon, so sometimes I'll have that. But yeah, so We have plans to eventually get bees as well as chickens. I want goats, but hubby does not. So that's a conversation we're still having. They're a lot of work, and it's an expense because you got to build a place to keep them. And then we would rather raise food because you have to have a wide enough space. And we've dedicated an acre and a half of our property to growing food. So we have a full-fledged orchard on that acre and a half. Plus I have my vegetable garden. And y'all, I would lose my mind. And every last one of them goats would be curry goat if they ever got into my garden and ate my berry bushes. So.
You know, I have a traumatizing story about a goat named Bob. And I was at my grandparents' house, and we, coming from visiting from America, we're like, I get there and I raise this cow all summer and I name him Bob and I go out there and like feed him all the time, go to Kingston, come back, and we have curry goat. And I'm young, so I'm putting the two together. And my grandfather, bless his heart, cussed me, okay, asked me if I thought we were just raising pets. But he told me after dinner, what that's thinking. He told me after dinner. Okay. So I need goats. But they do have dwarfs, like the little goats, the little Nigerian goats.
Yeah, but they all eat whatever they get. And I have loads of flowers in my yard. And if they would eat my flowers or eat my vegetables, we would have an issue. So I think we'll just put a pause.
It's just not safe at Claudia's house. No. But Jay said she would like to take a residence in your yard and she will earn her keep. I don't know if you put a little cabin out there, but you have volunteers for free labor.
Wait, is that no work with food?
I heard acres. Like, okay, so what I think people don't understand is, and just to speak to what Kimberly was saying, that you don't have to be on acres. The dream for most of us is acres, but you don't have to be on acres to live a homesteading lifestyle.
No, because my last home, we had a backyard, like a typical suburban backyard, and I grew vegetables there. When we moved to Georgia from Michigan, because in Michigan we owned our own home, had a backyard, and we had a gardening area of that yard, and our kids were smaller then, so they needed a place to play, so I couldn't farm the entire thing. And at that time we lived in farm country, so we would just go and I would go pick the cherries from the tree and pick the peaches and do a lot of that type of living based on where we were. So my life has evolved as my awareness developed, but also as my desire to take control of what we eat grew, our lifestyle also changed. And when we moved south, I knew I wanted land and I knew I wanted to be in the country. And so when we went looking, we just had a couple of criteria. One, it needed to at least be 3 acres. And then we also wanted some body of water on the property. And so.
That's amazing. I came from 10,000 square feet to now a townhouse with an itty-bitty living space. So I am putting my money where my mouth is, that you can grow anything, anywhere, or most things in different spaces. I wonder, Isidro, what kind of space are you growing on?
It's like in Georgia, we have like a lot of little like neighborhoods, and it's a backyard, not huge. It's not small, but it's not huge. I don't know the square footage. Actually, I just expanded a little bit more. But
it looks real. Your pictures, it looks like a really decent sized growing space.
It's nice. It's nice. The other house I used to live in before, in Ellenwood, was like twice the size. But so that's why I guess in Georgia, that's how it is in Georgia. So it's like everybody's backyard. So if you're in Georgia, it's like an average backyard for someone in Georgia, living in a home. And it's not necessarily because of the Clayton County doesn't allow chickens. Back to that point, I seen somebody make a post or comment on it. It's more so because of the homeowners association. It's certain things you can't do in the neighborhood, and that's one of the things there. But yeah, it's a nice little space, and It's actually bigger. The property line goes further back. I went back there. It's in the woods a little bit. I went back there. It's a pink flag, but right where I just finished building that fence at, it's like a drop, a hill, and it's just too much work right now. Maybe one day, next year, I'll go even further back. But for now, we just went to where we at, and I'm happy with it. But it's pretty nice. It's pretty nice. Mm-hmm.
Hi. What about you, Kimberly? What kind of space are you growing on?
Sorry, I didn't hear you. I grow on my patio, which is like a little terrace area. I think it's like 15 or 14 by 15. There's a community garden here. There's a community garden that I also grow at where I have beds there. And then I also volunteer at a local place called Infinite Zion Farms. So I try to split my time between these two, the most of the community gardens these days. And if I have time, also volunteering with Infinite Zion. So I only have a total personal beds. I have 3, maybe 4 by 10 beds. And then I have my patio garden with about 20 different potted plants. And that's it. That's all I have.
That's enough.
I
That
love
sounds
that
like
so
a
much.
lot.
It is. Well, yeah.
That's it. Yeah.
I mean, only because like today I bought a Jubilee watermelon and I'm looking like, dang, I wish I had like 4 more plots for that one. But yeah, well.
And you know what? We forgot all about community gardens. Like that's a whole nother, that's what I'm doing this year because my growing space is small. I got a community garden plot and it's 625 square feet. So I'm like, oh, I'm going to grow all the things that can, fit in there. But yeah, definitely. If you're listening, look into community gardening until you, do what you need to do to get that, those acres, right?
Vanessa, do you follow Tam in the garden?
What happened?
I said, do you follow Tam in the garden?
No.
Tam, she does backyard gardening, but she also runs a community garden that she is retooling this growing season. So should be a nice one for you to see.
Oh, nice. Send me or put it in the chat so that we can all follow her. But that I'm gonna need some ideas. If y'all have any ideas, I'm starting with a blank slate and I'm leaving. You spend all this time building garden beds and doing it how you want it. Then you move and you got to start all over again.
Mm-hmm.
So,
well, my garden area is a year old.
Oh wow, it looks really established.
I had a different area in the yard. We used to grow behind the house, and and then one day I had this harebrained idea. I want a bigger garden, and so what I did was I had my husband to measure off an area, and then we fenced it in. And once we fenced it in, because I don't have people can conceptualize space and can see how big something is going to be. That's not a gift of mine. So I just walked and thought, oh, this would make a nice garden area. Y'all, when it was fenced in, I was like, what am I going to do? This place is huge, right? So last year I got laid off because of COVID. And I was home for a while, but I felt like it was advantageous in the sense that I was home and was able to get that space somewhat established because I had all these hours to do it. But I'm back to working full time. And now I'm just managing what's there because I tried to work hard until I started working, like prepping, so that I wouldn't have to put as much.
That's a great question. Raise your hand if you work full time and do this on the side. It's either you gonna bow out when I ask the question.
I was trying to raise my hand.
Oh no, just raise your physical hand.
Oh.
Hey. So this is a huge thing. Like we all work. This is so attainable. If you think that they can just stay home and garden all day and that's why it looks like that. No. We get up early, we go to bed late, we devote our weekends because it's something when you love to do something, it just comes naturally. Mm-hmm. And these are like your babies, so we're not gonna neglect them, but that was a great point out that we all work. We all have real jobs. Okay. So our third question is, I want to look back before we step forward, and we're talking about foundational building. What did your first season, your gardening season look like? I always tell the people who take my workshops that your first season, you may very well only harvest lessons. Maybe one tomato.
Yes.
One cucumber, but mostly lessons and maybe a few bugs. So I would love to know from each of you, starting with Kimberly, what did your first gardening season look like? What were your wins? Did you harvest anything, and what did you learn?
Well, I had started, I forgot where when I moved to Georgia, because I moved to Georgia first, but I had started just on a patio, and about 2 months into it, I did get a gardening plot around the corner. I lived in Sandy Springs, and by that time, between the first little plot and going those couple of months, it was terrible. I grew like mostly in the shade. I tried to look up like shade plants, but nothing grew. It was just too shady. But then as soon as I was able to get full sun, I was able to grow cucumbers and peppers. And so that was the first kind of thing. But I realized pretty fast that, okay, I need to find this plant for this time and this plant. The very first one was definitely a lot of lessons, a lot of dead plants, still a lot of dead plants.
That's important. Dead plants are important. I feel like they have to die sometimes, so you know how not to kill them next season. Mm-hmm. What about you, Claudia? What was your first season of gardening look like? Did you harvest anything? Learn anything?
I did, because I was fortunate enough to have had a husband who also grew up gardening. So I had help, and we tended it together. We were in college, actually, and our college gave the students garden plots. If you wanted, you could sign up for a plot. They plowed a huge field, and you were assigned an area, and we grew our vegetable garden, and we got quite a bit out of it. We were able to get lots of cucumbers. I feel like cucumbers are very forgiving. We got some tomatoes. I grew callaloo, which, yes. I grew squash and zucchini and lettuce. And we didn't have like, we didn't,
like
we did.
Squash?
We did, because I was gardening. I wasn't gardening in Georgia. Georgia gardening is next level when it comes to the squash vine borer and the pickleworms and all these other things that try to go out there to see. I see Isidro nodding his head because, wow, yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Isidro, what about you? Tell me about your first full season. I know you grew things here and there, but the first season you consider yourself a gardener.
Yeah, still. I guess that would technically be last year, where I went on a larger scale, and I did very well. Certain things better than others. Man, she hit it on the head with them worms. You learn about blossom end rot. You can start Googling all type of things like why is the bottom of my watermelon and my tomato.
Heartbreak. Okay.
Nice and big, and then it starts shrinking.
And the whole bottom is rotten.
And rot.
And then you learn, but it's a lot of lessons. And the good thing is that I started like March. I started this time last year, and I was able to do it again, before the summer, late summer. And I was able to harvest, and it was just like when I corrected those issues that were problems, and they just kept coming. Like tomatoes kept coming, peppers kept coming. You just harvest. So I would say, since my first full season, I can't complain. It was a lot, and I was giving stuff away because it was like I don't want stuff to go bad. So I'm going to the house. I'm giving them little bags and stuff, and it was fun. I still got a few things.
Two green thumbs, right? Those are the two green thumbs? Oh, he just got it. Him and Claudia just got it. I guess me and Kimberly were the only ones who struggled. I had so many lessons. I did. I had the deer problem. They wiped out everything. I had a flourishing garden, and they came like a all you can eat buffet that served crab legs at stimmy time. Like
That's
it
why the
was.
first thing I did was fence my garden area because we live
Well, why
in
didn't
woods.
you call me, Claudia? You didn't call me and tell me.
Listen, the other day I was sitting at my dining room table and I look out the French doors and what do I see? 4 deers walking through the orchard. Just, minding their own business, taking their own sweet time, standing there looking, but my dog saw them and chased them off, but
There you go. There you go. They just look and scoping out. I feel personally offended. And the Jamaican in me, I was out there in like a hair bonnet, a broom, cussing pure bad words. Like it was so, yeah. All right. Well, I'm glad. I hope that our audience was able to see that, first of all, from Isidro's story, that you just starting last year to what we see you doing now is so commendable. And, just to show you that if you put your mind to it, you can achieve so much and learn so much and be able to teach and help other people. We learned that we have a resource in Claudia. Please ask her all your questions. No, I don't want them to blow you up. No, but just having that experience and having a partner who you guys say, okay, we're going to do it together. We have a lot to learn and to be learned by talking to one another like this. And Kimberly, she came outside of her comfort zone and said, I'm going to leave my house, go to this community garden, but she's going to make the best of the space that she has, which I think is absolutely commendable as well. And you're in Master Gardener training, right?
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. So, I did that program last year, and it was amazing. And I don't think a lot of people use enough their university extension resources through the Master Gardeners in your area, that these are absolutely free resources for you who hold plant clinics. You just go to them and they'll tell you what's wrong with your plant. We hold workshops just like this one. And we are there as a community resource for any of your plant questions. So I would encourage you guys to take advantage of your Master Gardeners Association. And if you're very interested, like we were, consider becoming a Master Gardener. It is quite taxing. I was not expecting it to be. You have to become like a mini botanist. The test is quite difficult. The class is intense and it's long, and it threw me off, but it was so worth it. So you should look into it. All right. So if we're doing good, we always go over time because the conversation is so good. And okay, let's get back to it. All right. So my next question for you guys is looking ahead. We looked back, now let's look ahead. What are the dreams for the future of your garden or your homestead? I know that we all have these visions, and Pinterest colludes our brain and says, and we scroll and we see other people's garden and be like, I want that, I want that, I want that. And even if you haven't written it down, then I encourage you to have a vision board for your homestead and, and for what your garden is going to look like a year, 3 years. That's an activity that my students and I go through because it keeps you focused. It keeps your eye on the prize and says, this is what I'm working for. And I always say, connect with your why and connect with your vision, because when squash vine birds and deers come to destroy your life, your garden, but it feels the same. Yes. That you remember why you're in this and you keep your vision close. So Claudia, let's start with you. What are the dreams for the future of your garden or your homestead? Where are you guys headed?
Well, we have a 5-year plan, and we renew the plan, as things change. So currently right now, I water every time I need to water with a long hose. So top of the line is to put in a drip system, both to the vegetable garden and the orchard, because we water that also by hand, which is very time consuming. We're looking at a couple hours each time we do it. Yes. So irrigation, I did apply for a grant. I haven't heard back for the grant. If we get that grant, it would go far in helping us establish irrigation for the garden. Another thing is I'm in the process of building myself a studio where I can do like YouTube videos and use a lot more of my nutrition background because I have a bachelor's in dietetics and a master's in wellness. So wanted to really go and show individuals how you can marry the food from your garden to living a healthier life and so forth. So I'm in the process of building a studio. So hopefully that is done in the next couple of months. Once that's done, part of the finishing of it will be to install gutters to actually collect rainwater system. I already have the IBC totes. So it's just a matter of putting in the gutters and collecting the water. And we'll use that to water instead of our well, which is what we're currently doing. Another thing we are wanting to build this year is an actual, for real greenhouse. And I'm in the process of converting the garden from in-ground beds to raised beds, only because I'm getting old and my back. Yeah, last year I learned a lot having to bend over all the time that my back just does not like all of that bending over. I was in a car wreck when I was younger and I fell a couple of times. And so, so I already have 8 or 9 raised beds and I'm always looking and have, I think probably the plan to purchase another 8 or 9 more, and then we'll be there. There'll still be some in-ground areas like my sorrel and my gungo peas, my pigeon peas. I grow that in-ground.
I need a care basket, is what I'm trying to tell you. I need seeds, I need a care basket. I'm going to send you a list.
Listen, I'm crazy enough to try to grow it. And I feel like if I start early enough, even if it means starting early in my house, then I should be able to get it. Last year I grew cassava.
And did you get it? Like,
yes, I did.
Oh, sure.
There's a post on my feed if you want to see what my harvest was. I grew sugarcane. I grew lemongrass. I grew sorrel. I grew pigeon peas. I even grew chocho, chayote, squash.
Oh,
yeah.
Soup. Does anyone else want soup?
Yeah, and so a lot of it is just being willing to try. We're in a warm zone. Like Isidro is in 8A. I'm in 7B. Kimberly, what zone are you in Florida?
9B.
Yeah, so we all have the ability to grow. I think sometimes fear keeps us from trying things. I'm willing to try anything at least one time. And if it doesn't grow, okay, I chalk it up as a lesson learned. And actually, I'll try it again because perhaps I started it too late, or maybe it would do better if I started it inside and moved it outside. There's a gentleman that I follow who lives in Atlanta. He grew yam last year, like yellow yam. He grew yam.
I was going to try yam because it likes the clay soil. And that's kind of like knowing the microclimate and knowing kind of what grows. Like Isidro was saying that he just experimented. There are some crops that I just say, let's just see what happens. If I get one, I get one.
Yep.
But at least you can take notes and say, okay, this didn't work out last year. Like by the end of the season, I'm so excited for the next season because now I done harvested all these lessons and it's just going to get better and better and better and better. Kimberly, what about you? What's the plans for your homesteading journey?
My plan was I need to figure out if I want to live in Florida and buy a house. So I have been looking for a house for a while, and now the market has just kind of blew up here in Orlando. So I figured I'd wait one more year to be able to get the type of loan that I wanted. In the meantime, I figured I would just continue with teaching and volunteering and growing as much as on my patio that they will allow me to, because I have quite a bit already. So just try to expand some of the new plants that I have right now that I haven't grown, or potatoes. And I've been really getting into flowers. Flowers has been something that I've never really gotten into. So I figured now would be kind of a cool time to do it.
Yeah, I've really gotten into the flowers too. I didn't even realize that. Like, I was just like, I'm not growing it if it can't feed us. That time I didn't know about edible flowers. I really didn't know about pollination. So I had a whole bunch of greens and nothing was happening.
Mm-hmm.
So, and my mom is like an award-winning landscape designer who taught me nothing at all about flowers and gardening and those things. But she only does flowers. So growing flowers, I was like, no, I can't do anything with that. They're pretty. You got to go outside and water all day for no reason. I'm not doing that. But I guess we need both because there's these things called pollinators. So I have been getting into flowers just for like
insects to come to your yard.
Flowers.
You invite the insects to come to your yard and work. What's the reward for them?
That's, you know what, that is true. But now I'm like knee deep into this. So now I'm like, how do I bring in an owl? How do I now I'm getting real deep. Like when you watch how there's this the tiniest farm or something like that on YouTube, if I will put out the link. It is amazing how they designed this farm for the kind of like the ecosystem of animals to take care of the pests. So when they had this vole rodent issue, they brought in owls. Mm-hmm. And the owls killed like 40, or more animals a night. I'm trying to bring an owl into my backyard. All right, so on to you. Last but not least, Isidro, tell me about what is the big goal here? You just gonna keep experimenting? I know you got big plans.
I am gonna keep experimenting, but it's for the big plans. The vision is sort of like Claudia. She had a lot of it. Irrigation system, some automatic, some efficiently watering the roots versus the leaves. Avoid those too many wet leaf issues that cause mold and other things. Something like that. But ultimately, I'm just doing it here, but eventually I would like to go somewhere warm where it stays warm year round to where I could grow things more at my speed, like avocados, pineapples, and mangoes.
I have avocado and a mango tree. There are avocado and mango trees that are hardy to 18 degrees.
Really?
Yes. I have two of each.
And you get fruit?
They're flowering. I don't know if I'll have fruit this year, but it's possible.
I hope so. Yeah, I want all of those.
Yeah. But I do agree with Claudia. Don't sell yourself short, man. There are cold hardy. I have they have those little avocados are cold hardy. Pineapples, you just got to bring them inside in the cold and then bring them back.
There's a lady, Isidro. I think it's Lovers for Healthy Heart. I don't know if you follow them. They live in Georgia too. I think it's Georgia, but it's either Georgia or South Carolina. I don't remember. But she grows pineapples. I think she has like 5 growing. And she just puts them inside her greenhouse during the winter months. And then they,
Are you gonna get a greenhouse, Isidro? Are you trying to sell vegetables, fruits? Are you educating your community?
No, it's really a hobby, and it's more an education. It's more a hobby, and until I get that place where I can do where I'm gonna be stationed and anchored down and really just go all out. Things like what we're doing now, share my experience. I'm just gonna keep growing in my backyard and try to rotate, because it's certain things grow better in certain seasons, and so you always gonna learn because you always got to rotate them out. And I just try to do different things and different varieties. And like how she was saying, because I did have pineapples here before, I left them outside. They got big too. I left them outside when they got cold, and I don't got them no more. Yeah, so I just gotta learn different that can take below freezing temperatures, and that's the advantage too. Like, cause I like raised beds and I like in ground. The disadvantage of it is that when it is like cold, it really affects the temperature. Whereas a raised bed, they could take more of the colder temperature, especially when you mulch it right. Cause I have a lot of things that's in my raised bed still growing Whereas everything that was in ground, I had to pull them out. Well, I still got things in the raised beds from last year. Lemongrass, lemon balm, beets, turnips, collard greens, mustard greens, green onions, things that's in the raised beds that's still growing strong, kale. Whereas I have some of those that were in ground and everything just withered away.
I'm convinced you can't kill kale. I'd like somebody to
Me
prove
too.
me wrong.
I have kale from last spring still in the garden.
Yeah, and I have kale that I did not water one time since
Me
like
too.
Halloween, and it won't die, and it's still tasty.
And I never covered mine. I didn't cover mine the entire winter, and they're
Me
still,
neither.
yeah.
Okay, so let's move on to the next question. I love this. You guys are doing amazing. Okay, so now let's get into that kind of real reason why we're here. Let's talk foundations. How do you prepare for the growing season, and what does your planning process look like? A lot of the people who follow my workshops, we're taking it in baby steps because it is so easy to get overwhelmed your first year or even two of gardening. So we just did seed starting. Our first session was about making a plan. So I'm interested to hear how you guys plan for, because there's nothing to do up here in the snow, in the cold. You can't grow anything. So we look through seed catalogs and we plan and draw and dream. So let me start with Pedro this time. How do you prepare for the growing season, and what does your planning process look like?
I do have it on paper too. I kind of write out what I want to grow. I kind of write out where I want to put things and what needs to be done too. So I have one where it's like a drawing, and I put like where I want things to go at. And then two, I put a list of what grows better in shaded areas, what gets full sun, and what areas have that, and what's going in the raised beds versus in ground. So I put it on paper to keep me organized because it can be overwhelming, especially when you got a lot you're trying to do, or what I consider a lot. It's not like Claudia, but what I consider a lot. So I do that. I got things behind me right now growing. I started probably like end of December. I started with things that I can rotate outside first that can take some cold temperature, like lettuce and varieties of lettuce and collard greens, because they're outside. I just recently put them outside because they can take, a little bit of cold temperatures. Then I go with things that by the time they get bigger, I got tomatoes and a whole bunch of bell peppers and sweet peppers and hot peppers. So probably like in the next week or two, when it's like constantly spring temperature, I could put those outside. And I got cucumbers here too. Just keep rotating them out like that. And I start them indoor, so that way I could try to take advantage of it as soon as it warms up, hit the ground running and start harvesting. Something you learn that the later you take, the longer you take the plant to put a seed in the dirt, the longer you got to wait for the harvest. Mm-hmm. I till ground. I make sure I till ground. If it's a new area, I check the soil acidity and try to see if it's, they got the little test kits where you can check to see if the primary macronutrients are the levels. You can see if it's sufficient, inadequate. So I do all of that, and then if not, I try to amend it. Somebody asked me as well about do I grow in the red clay? Yes and no. I make sure I add manure and all that good stuff and mix it in, and wood chips and things like that. So yes, I do grow in the red clay, but I kind of amend the dirt as much as I can before I just put some in there, because one year I did it with the watermelon, and I guess it was too acidic. And everything that I put out there, the watermelons and my peppers, everything I put out there, and then I got. Sorry about that. Hello?
You're still here.
Yeah, I thought I put my phone in do not disturb. Okay, I'm gonna get back to the thing. I can't see myself. If y'all can hear me, I can't see myself, but if y'all can hear me, I'm gonna keep talking. I just perfect. So I just try to make sure the city is, make sure because the roots, the dirt has to. If you don't have good dirt, it don't matter how much you start them inside, they're gonna die. or if they don't anchor themselves well, or if the ground is too hard and they got rocks in it, and that wind blow too strong, it's gonna break it right at the stem. So I just try to make sure the dirt is nice and loose. Try to make sure I got the nutrients it needs. Try to make sure the acidity, depending on what you're growing, because you don't want everything to be non-acidic or alkaline-like, depending on what you're growing. So, I mean, Google is a great resource. You know, I'm not gonna act like I know everything. Like I said, I'm non-gardening background. I used to do a lot of Google and YouTube, especially when I have issues and I go.
Mm-hmm. We are all graduates of YouTube University, and I think those are all great things. You know, he says that he writes things down and makes a plan, but then also focusing on those microclimates within his own space. You know, you might have a full yard and say, I'm used to this yard, but an area that is shaded in other hours, you may have to treat differently. So it is worth it to sit down and make a plan. So what about you, Claudia? How do you prepare for the growing season?
Well, I'm a planner. I use the
Organized
Farmer's Almanac.
homemaker.
Yeah, I use the Farmer's Almanac garden planner to kind of just draw out so I can get an idea of the layout of the garden and what I want to put everywhere. And one of the things I like about it is the fact that you can drag and drop the type of vegetable that you're going to grow in the bed that you're going to grow it in. And it'll tell you, once you've inputted how big the bed is or the size of the bed, it'll tell you how many of a particular plant will fit in that bed. And so I like that. So I know how many seedlings to start or how many starts to purchase, because I don't necessarily start all of my own seeds. I do purchase some. I generally purchase some so I can have some food right up at the start of the season, and then I start the rest of my seeds. So that's one way I do it. And then I actually put it on paper, kind of like, these are the things I want to grow this year. Where am I going to fit them in the garden? And then I make sure too that I plan for succession planting. That's another thing, to make sure that I have crops the whole entire summer and that I'm harvesting something the entire summer. Last year was not as good because I started later in the season, so I didn't have any succession planning done. We were waiting for our garden space to be excavated and cleared out, and all the trees cut down and moved out the way, all the stumps, gotten rid of. And by the time it got done, we were already well into the garden season. So I did a lot more starts last year, but I did direct, so like all my squashes and my cucumbers and all the other things I grew except peppers and tomatoes. I bought starts for those just because I didn't have time. If I'd waited and started the seeds, I wouldn't be harvesting anything until probably close to frost. So I bought those. So what else do? I try to make sure that I have compost and that I've shredded leaves. I do a lot of that work during our winter, since our winter is mild. And so I go out on the days when it's above 45, 50 degrees, and I will shred leaves and put them in the bed, work those in, put composted manure. And I also send for a soil sample test. Our local extension office is literally 8 minutes from my house. So I drive down there and I get it done, and it comes back within a week. So I know what I need to amend for and get all of that done so that when I'm ready to start planting, I can hit the ground running. So long story short, I also look through the catalogs and dream and get myself in trouble by ordering more seeds than I can ever plant.
They get all my money. This is what the problem is.
Yes.
And I think I might need to get another job to support my seed habit. And then, Google stalks you. So now on my Facebook timeline is Baker Creek and all these different places.
But listen,
and a new melon that I never know. I was like, well, I gotta grow that now.
I also have I have followers who love to share their seeds with me. If they grow something, yes. if they grow something and it does well for them, I will often get a DM, hey, would you like to try this? And so I'll get seeds in the mail, and I have all kinds of new varieties of stuff to try without
Do you
having.
hear that? Do you hear what she's saying, folks? I want seed mail. I'll swap.
Yeah, so I get, but I also share. Like last year, I grew loofahs for the first time ever, and I got 12 loofahs. Well, each loofah has probably close to, I would say at least 75 seeds, 50, 75 seeds, somewhere in there. And I had more seeds than I could ever use. So I will, anytime I harvest something and I'm going to have a lot of seeds, I'll put a message up. I have enough seeds for X amount of people. The first so many people who contact me, I will send it and I ship it out. And so it's like, I feel like a mutually giving thing. I mean, I give flower seeds, I give vegetable seeds. Yeah.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Who haven't we gotten to? Kimberly. Did we do Kimberly? Did we do everybody?
No, we didn't.
No.
Okay. I'm losing track. I'm all in the seed mail.
We can actually we can actually skip this for me. Yes, the time, because there's nothing new for me to add here. I have a 9-month growing season, so there's nothing, that I really do in the meantime that's different from any
You
of
don't
them.
prepare. You don't plan. You don't say, I'm gonna grow XYZ.
I do. I have the same kind of gardening planner that I created, and I pretty much just use that.
You have a principal garden planner. If you guys go on Kimberly's Instagram, she has a download for a garden planner as well. So that's amazing. So she's got that in the bag. So you guys should have all of the information that you need to get planning and really get off on the right foot. Let me share my screen again. We can get back to the questions. I am almost done with y'all. How are you guys liking it so far? Everybody's good. We're engaging. Everything's awesome. Okay. I think we talked about number 6, so we don't have to go over this for a very long time. I want to talk about soil and amendments, and I think that what I gathered from what you guys have said, you do your soil test, you send it off, and it comes back, and that process looks like, okay, it's missing or it's not balanced, and then you would add kind of the amendments. And also you had mentioned composting. So do you guys have anything else to add to that point of kind of amendments that you find helpful, whether it be raising the pH or lowering the pH? How do you add phosphorus? How do you add, different, for especially in a raised bed that you may not be growing the same vegetables in? Like how do you, if one vegetable needs X, but the other one doesn't do well with too much X, and you aren't gonna, how do you grow multiple things in one bed and account for those kind of soil amendments? Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Anybody? Let's. Oh. I don't want to keep calling on y'all. Come on.
Companion planting that gets around a lot.
Yep.
Some things give to the soil and some things take out. It kind of creates that kind of relationship there. Give me like 2 all natural amendments that you always have on hand.
Nitrogen.
Nitrogen. Okay. Anything else?
Potassium.
Do you guys use perlite or perlite at all?
I always, I add shredded leaves to my garden all the time. And then a couple years back, the electric company came through and chipped mulch. And I got the drop from our neighborhood. It's now dirt. So that's composted nicely, and I add that to my beds. I will also add composted manure to my beds to build them up, because when the last test that I had, remember, this is a new gardening spot for me. So the last soil test that I had showed that I was low on potassium and I was low on phosphorus in the garden. And I purchased potassium and I purchased phosphorus and I added it in. I like to add 4 to 6 weeks before I start planting to make sure that the soil has enough time to absorb what I have amended with it, so that when I go to plant, I'm not worried about anything getting burned or, being too fiery, so to speak, for the plants that I put in it.
Because it can burn them. It can burn them and it can harm them. We think that just because the depot sells it, we could put it on our plants, but it's a balancing act. So definitely get your soil tested. Do you guys, I don't use vermiculite or perlite. I just find that it's added too much sponge to my soil. I use the leaves as well. Those are free.
Mm-hmm. And I've got lots of freeze.
$3.99. Okay. And I use chip drop. Is that what you were mentioning? Chip drop?
No,
I use
they don't deliver to my area. I'm too far in the woods. No, when our electric company comes through and they trim back all the trees that are hanging over the electric lines, and they will actually allow you to have the chips if you ask them for it, and they'll drop it at your house. So they did.
But be prepared, because I ordered chip drop for the first time last year. It was free, but they dumped an entire dump truck worth of mulch on my driveway, and I have sons, so they use the wheelbarrow to bring it into the back. But yeah, you got to be prepared when they drop them chips. Who's gonna move them? Who's gonna move them? So those are free resources, and then a lot of cities and counties have community composting sites, and you can order really cheap compost from them. Also, a lot of people don't know, and I like to say, you can drop off a 5-gallon bucket to Starbucks, and they will fill the bucket up with coffee grounds. That is very good for your garden. You don't want to put too much. Check your soil, but there's a lot of free resources out there. Like I don't know if everyone's Home Depot does it, or local builders, wood chips or sawdust. You can get sawdust for free. There's a lot of free. This doesn't have to be expensive to have good soil. And like Claudia said, you want to do it early so that it can kind of get acclimated to its environment. You know, when you used to get like a fish from the carnival and you drop it in the cold water and it goes into shock, you know, you had to kind of let the fish get acclimated to the new water. That's kind of how I think about preparing the soil before you drop your babies in there. Okay, so we are at our last question, and this has been really informative. This has been awesome. Okay, so our last question, and my favorite question, I ask this question of all of my guests. Spill the tea. This is how we wrap it up. What tips, tricks, and general advice do you give to new gardeners to start off on the right foot? And I'm going to start this time with Miss Claudia.
I basically tell them to grow what they love. And I mean, it sounds very simplistic, but I feel sometimes that because we see X person growing it, we want to grow it too, but it may not be what's appropriate for your area, number one. And will your family really eat it? You don't want to grow something and have to throw it away because nobody's going to eat it. Grow what your family will eat. Grow what you know you like. For example, our family loves kale. So I have 6 different types of kale growing in my garden because we love kale. We'll eat it raw. We eat it cooked. We eat it in soups. I mean, there are so many different ways for us to eat it. So I know that we grow a lot of that. My husband is the only one who really likes okra. So I don't grow a lot of it just because he's the only one who likes it. So you have to kind of look at what your family does and, you know, what will grow well in your area. I also encourage them to just start somewhere, even if it's one pot growing some lettuce and seeing how that goes, because lettuce is very easy to grow. You literally sprinkle the seeds and boom, there it comes, almost like grass, right? So lettuce is extremely easy to grow, and that's a good one. I find tomatoes can be persnickety and they can be diva plants. Yes, they can be with the, you know,
spell that in the chat for me.
But they really can be, I think.
Tomato plants are bougie. Is that what you're saying?
They're divas
Okay.
in the garden. And I feel like that could be a hard one for a new beginner to do, especially if it doesn't work out, like the blossom and rot, or if you get like powdery mildew, or fungus on the leaves, or if you get tomato hornworms. It can be discouraging, you know? So start with something that's manageable. Start growing what you love. Even if it's a container, you start there, just like one little pot. Just begin. I feel oftentimes that once they get the fear of starting out of the way, you become hooked and you can't stop gardening. All of a sudden you want to grow all the things, all the spaces, and you're looking for more space in your yard to plant.
Or the neighbor's yard.
Yes.
Or a community garden.
Yes.
Or your mom's yard.
Yes.
And now you're just taking over every yard.
Yep.
Kimberly, what is your advice to new gardeners trying or giving them advice on how they can start the season out on the right foot?
I would just say what I've learned from master gardening is right place, right time, and what is it? Right place, right time, right plant. So, you know, real concise there. It's just literally what plant you want to grow. Is it the right time? Is it the right place in terms of shading versus sun?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that can make all the difference, right? All the difference. And that comes from making a plan.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so you're not just going to fall into right place, right time, right climate. Like that's not something you just stumble upon. While generally Home Depot and those places put out plants that are for that season, their biggest concern isn't native plants, and their biggest concerns aren't how it's going to survive after you walk out of the store.
Exactly.
So you got to be careful. Use your local nurseries if you can,
Yeah.
or they have native plant sales or swaps, or YouTube University, Google, or one of our pages.
Yeah, it's so important because you don't want to be growing kale in the middle of summer in Florida. You know, it's just not going to happen. So
you can't die. Kimberly, didn't we tell you?
It could flower though, but it won't die, but it'll flower on you. So
it'll bolt, yeah.
In Florida, anything can die. I take that back. in Florida, it gets so hot. This is your prime gardening time in Florida now. Don't you try and grow stuff through the summer. That ain't happening.
This summer, I'm just going to do sunflowers as a cover crop for green manure. So, yeah.
Yeah. What about you, Isidro? What tips and tricks do you have, or general advice do you have for new gardeners for them to start off on the right foot?
Keep trying. I mean, you're going to fail. It's going to die. Things going to rot. It's going to happen, you know. You just keep trying and pay attention. The plants, they let you know when they're not liking the environment, and you can pretty much guess what it is. Whatever change you just did, you can pretty much guess if you put it in the sun, too much sun, too hot, or not enough light. They'll let you know. They'll start leaning over, or if they just pay attention and keep trying, and you'll adapt to it. You know, I would recommend, like you said, follow one of the pages, use your resources, Google it, figure out, you know, what could be causing you to fail, and then when you become successful, I mean, it's just the most rewarding thing. You're gonna want to grow everything, like Claudia said. You're gonna want to use every inch of it. I'm using my office right now to grow a lot of things because I'm just, you know, it's just that addicted, you know. And once again, I don't come from no background. I didn't go to any. I didn't get certified, nothing like that. So it's anyone can potentially, you know, bring out that green thumb for real.
And that the overriding theme here is that none of us got anywhere by stopping at planting. We all, at some point, put a seed in the ground. Cesar was saying that earlier, like nothing is going to happen. I guarantee you. I can't guarantee you that you're going to harvest anything but lessons. I can't guarantee you that, you know, it's going to be a success or a failure, but I can guarantee you you're going to get nothing from this season if you don't put something in the ground, even just one thing. You know, it's okay to, I was at a seed swap on Sunday, and I'm here like, come on, y'all want some seeds? We were like playing Pokemon with the seeds, right? And one of my girlfriends was like, that's enough. Okay. She's like, I'm not going to take any more because I don't want to be overwhelmed. Maybe next year. I wish I could be a big enough person to say that because I want all the things. Mm-hmm. But putting something in the ground and also starting off small, starting off at a manageable, and just do this one part right. Mind your business. Stay in your lane at the point that you are in. There's a lot of information coming at you from a lot of different places. And Instagram is just a treasure trove of you hating on where you are at your gardening life right now. And it's so easy to get caught up in everybody's acres. Because I was hating a little bit on Claudia's acres. I'm not going to lie to you. I wanted, I want some peas. Okay. And, I want to see just weather, and I want to travel the world like really. So you are where you are, you're starting off, and there's beauty in each one of the places that we're in. But nothing happens if we don't start. Can we all agree?
Yeah.
Can we get people growing? All right. So I'm going to take some questions. We had questions. There's no questions in the Q&A, but I saw people asking questions directly in the chat. So I'm going to scroll real quick, and my moderator can help me. There she goes. So biggest teacher in gardening, in person or online, who would you guys recommend? Real quick, give me your biggest teacher. Let's start with Kimberly.
Oh, it is the person that runs the Master Gardener course, who is amazing. But I guess the person who got me into it was my boss to push me. So he's the biggest person, I guess, in my personal life. And online, I don't really have the time to follow anybody, but I really like this young guy, Jungle K. He does a lot of house plants, but he's so creative in how he presents things on his TikTok. And I thought that's really cute. Like if I could be that, like personal social media type. So I would love to do that.
Awesome. Okay. What about you, Cedro? Online or in person? It doesn't have to be both. Give me one.
I have done in person, so I would have to go with online.
Okay. For 200?
Yeah, I've never dealt with everything I've learned. I'm not gonna say on my own, but no one in person, no one has come here to help me, or I could never go to no one over here garden. So everything online, for sure.
So who's that person? Do you follow anyone in particular that you like, love everything they do?
Everybody. Like I sometimes I'm an explorer, and even if I don't follow some people, I'll sit there and watch what they do. One person who I spoke with a lot, I don't know if you follow him, Farmer Market Ken. Mm-hmm. He has a lot going on, and sometimes, he'll actually give me advice and things like that. We'll talk about what we're growing. I like what Soul Gardener does, 74. It's a few people that I follow that's in Panama. They do a lot of good things, and I take a lot of their open siembra, Spanish, but I follow a lot of what they do as well, and a lot of tips and tricks, with less, using less and, getting the same, being as efficient. So just name drop a few.
I tried to put them in the chat. I love Lead Farmer 73. Mm-hmm. He's amazing. I'm still like, I could go cheesy and do Epic Gardener too. I learned so much.
Evan is really nice.
Yeah, love Epic Gardener. What about you, Claudia?
Well, I was going to say Epic Gardener because he's not only famous, right, but he's also a really genuinely nice person. I will say Tam in the Garden. I mentioned her before, and her handle is in here from before. Have you heard of Easy Living Gardens? Mm-mm. Brandy, she lives in Florida. I think she's in either Jacksonville or Tampa. I can't remember, but she has exceptional wealth of knowledge. Her garden is just beautiful. Her greens are just lush. And she knows a lot about pest management. She knows a lot about soil management. I enjoy following her. Who else?
Awesome.
I follow so many people.
Well, a whole bunch of suggestions. You guys got all the plugs.
Mhm.
So I tried to keep up and put everybody in the chat. Jay, do we have another question? I thought I saw one from Alexis. I'm going to scroll up. Okay, so, oh, never mind. I'm scrolling back down. No, we did that one already. Okay, so there's a lot out there. This is from Alexis. It says there's a lot out there saying you can use Epsom salt, baking soil, old tea leaves, eggshells. You know all the things. All the things that people want to make quick reels about. Save up all the neighborhood garden eggshells. Catch them up real small. How do you know what to use when and under what conditions? And I would like to add on to that, if it's something you should even try in the first place. Anybody can just answer the question.
In our Master Gardener course, we are encouraged not to give home remedies, but what I would say is it depends on the plant and it depends on what you see might be wrong with it. So if you see a nitrogen deficiency on your tomato plants, you could add that particular soil amendment to your plant. So it definitely depends on the source of the plant and then whatever could be wrong with it. That's what I could do. And then just in addition to using, remind me again, I forget the type of fertilizer where it's the same numbers, 10, 10, 10 or something like
It's
it's
a general all-purpose fertilizer.
the complete fertilizer. So just also making sure that you're on like a regular schedule with that. You should be fine in terms of adding amendments throughout your season, at least from my experience.
Awesome. I'm answering the Master Gardener question. I think mine was 12 weeks. I believe you said yours was 10, right, Kimberly?
Mine it is 12 weeks. Yeah, I thought it's 11 weeks to study. And then, we have like 70 hours of community service.
Yeah. And then then you pass your exams. You pass many exams through each of the modules, and you meet twice a week. My class was meeting twice a week for 2 to 3 hours. And then you do that for 12 weeks, and then you take an exam. And then after you pass the exam, you start your apprenticeship, and that's a year-long program. So try it. It's not expensive either. And, I mean, to get a degree in these things would be very expensive. So, well, I think that is all that we have for tonight. I want to just share my screen one more time to just let everybody know what's coming up. I want to thank you so much for joining us here tonight. This has been another Table Talk with fabulous guests. We learned so much, all these plugs and information. We're all walking out of here way more equipped than we came in, and it is thanks to the three of you. And I know it was last minute that I contacted y'all. Y'all came through and killed it. So amazing. Thank you so much for giving me your time, for answering our questions. The audience absolutely appreciates you guys. And for the audience, we appreciate you all. I want to remind you of some upcoming events. We are doing Table Talk again on Thursday. We have to kind of catch up. This is our catch-up session. We're doing it again on Thursday, but we're doing Hustle Edition. So same thing, root work. We're going to be talking about foundations of business building, because the fight for food insecurity is three-pronged. It's self-sufficiency through food, then we are going to address our money, then we're going to become better people inside and out. We're growing in and out of the garden. So Hustle Edition kind of centers around, especially this week, we're talking passion to profit, and how we turn our dreams and everything we're doing in the garden and the things that interest us outside of the garden and start to kind of make that so that we can sustain all of our seed addictions.
Mhm.
And that is going to be Thursday, March 18th at 8 p.m. Then next week, we have another webinar, another workshop series that's going to be on planning for pests, because they're coming. You're either
yes.
going to fall victim or you're gonna get your ammo ready. Right? And that is next week at 8 p.m. The registration link for all of the events is in the chat, as well as the contact information to like and follow and connect with each one of our panelists. I thank you from the bottom of my heart. You guys are wonderful. Thank you for joining us tonight. Have a good night. Keep going.
Good
Keep
night.
growing.
Have a good night. Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Good night.
Bye-bye.